What was your life like at the peak of Sometimes Wanna Die? The peak of that being a hit single, the album being at its peak. Were you on the road a lot? Like, what was going on in your life? Because most people don't know what it's like to have a hit single or a hit album. So for the rest of us peasants, we just want to know what that moment is like. It
was pretty cool because I think that song went top 10 here, but the video, we had Tommy Lee in our video, and it went to #1 on Much Music. And so the combination of the top 10 on airplay and the #1 video, and I remember that's the time when video was kind of king at the time. It dictated a lot of radio as opposed to the other way around. So yeah, it was an exciting time. It was we toured with Big Wreck on that album.
Amazing.
And that's to this day one of the most fun I've had on tour. Crazy fun musical. We'd go out and listen to them after our set every night. Great band, and we're all still friends to this day. But it was a good time, fun time. Again, it's just a shame that that 9/11 had the effect that it did on its success in the States. But for Canada, it was great, and lots of touring, and we got a Juno nomination out of that. And yeah, it was a good time. And I just wish again that had 9/11 not happened, who knows what would have happened south of the border here.
Yeah, it's crazy. You can see beside me, I have the Big Wreck album.
Yeah.
So this is my wall of fame. So my favorite 12 albums from guests that I've had on the podcast, and Big Wreck is there from the Sekou interviews. We'll talk about Sekou a little bit later. There's a segue that we'll that we'll go through. When you mentioned having Tommy Lee in the music video, so that was my first taste of Joydrop. So I was 16 when that video comes out. That's the first time I became aware of the band. And all this time until basically right now, preparing for this interview, I assumed because Tommy Lee was in the video and you guys were signed to Tommy Boy Records, I thought that was Tommy Lee's record label.
Oh,
this whole time, just because of you guys, I thought Tommy Lee had this like insane successful record label as well. So
no, it was when that single, when we had recorded the album, and then the label said, okay, that's this is going to be the single. Let's shoot a video. They said, what? Let's have a cameo in it. So they were throwing some names out there, and then they said, what about Tommy Lee? And this is around the time he had just had the whole Pamela Anderson thing had happened, and he had actually a kid drowned in his pool. All this was happening at the same time, so he was in a bit of a slump, and we said, well, do you think he'd want to do it after all the stuff he's been through? Maybe he doesn't want to have his face shown like that. And they said, well, we'll ask him, because we used to, remember Everlast? So his manager was also Tommy Lee's manager.
Okay.
So he said, well, you know what? Let me ask Tommy if he wants to do it. And it was one of those things like, yeah, I'll see. Even if he says yes, I'll see it when I believe it. When we show up to the video shoot and he's there, then I'll believe it. So we shot it in LA, and sure enough, we get there. They said, okay, Tommy's here. He said, all he asks is that you don't mention Pamela Lee Anderson, and everything's going to be cool. And he was so cool. We had a great time. We hung out with him for like that whole weekend. And that's how and even that, he also does DJing. And so we'd cross paths every now and then. He'd say, hey, I'm in whatever town we'd be in. He's like, I'm DJing. You guys want to hang out? And we go hang out with him. He came and DJ'd at an event at the Revival, called us up. We hung out with him then. So we stayed in touch for, a couple of years after that, and haven't heard from him since. But great guy, nice guy.